Hello, Bachcho. Hope you all are doing well and welcome back to the channel. So आज का जो टॉपिक है वो जैट के डीएम के ऊपर ही है। जैट का डिसीजन मेकिंग क्वेश्चंस के ऊपर है। और आज जो मीन्स मैं करने वाला हूँ so which is nothing but I'll give you examples, lot of examples or maybe called as a couple of examples, and I'll follow those of the process which I told you uh, in my last two videos, right? So I'll give you a couple of scenarios here. So let's start that. Hello, everyone. Hello, Bacho. How are you? I hope you all are doing well. I'm also good. And I believe that you people are doing hard for the ZAT 2026. So, और ये मेरा थर्ड वीडियो है एंड सो आज का जो थर्ड वीडियो है so this third video will give you a couple of example and how those of the examples can be solved using with those of the two last videos where I suggested couple of things. Okay, I hope if you people have uh, seen those of the videos, then definitely you you can familiar with those of the things in today's video. Well, let's proceed with it. I'll give you a couple of scenarios today. Think of it. A scenario is provided here that there is a company. You can talk about that XYZ or ABC company. So that company is facing difficulties, right? And it's considering what? Discontinue or discontinuing a product line. So considering what? Discontinuing a product line. So that product line employs somehow called it 200 workers. Or you can say that means that company where 200 workers are working. So this product line is not profitable, but laying off employees would obviously or severely impact their livelihoods, isn't it? I hope you understood the question. The question is simple that there is a company named is ABC or XYZ. So that company is facing financial difficulties and it's considering discontinuing a product line. That product line employs 200 workers, or you can say that 200 workers depend upon that. So this product line is not profitable. So that's why the company decided to discontinue it. But at the same time, laying off employees would severely impact their livelihoods. Now, that is the scenario. Now, on the basis of the scenario, you find out so a couple of choices are provided. The first choice, it stated that discontinuing, so the first option, discontinue the product line immediately to save cost. That is the first, which they are doing actually. Second, it's called as invest in upgrading the product line. Invest in upgrading the product to make it competitive. Invest in upgrading the product to make it competitive. Third, gradually phase out, gradually phase out the product while you can say that retraining employees for other roles. The fourth one is called as a continue with the product line despite losses to protect jobs, isn't it? So it's a clear. Now you read the question, you find out four options. Please to remember in chat you would find out five options, but here I'm just providing four options. Now look into that. When we go for the analysis, right? When we go for the approach the problem systematically, what are the things that we supposed to do? Before I analyze those of the things, you think of it, the text and the options, and find out if you would be in my place, or if you would be the head of the company, what could be your suitable step that could save the 200 employees or 200 workers, right? As well as you would reach to a kind of a fairness. Just work on it. Pause the video and go for that. Well, let me tell you, when I go for the analysis, I'll follow what? Ethical dilemma, stakeholders' interest, and empathy and practicality. When I say that ethical dilemma, what do I find out? I try to follow the balancing the company's financial health against the well being of employees. That is what the ethical dilemma. Second is called as a stakeholders' interest. When I say that stakeholders' interest, it means the company, the employees, and potentially the market demand for the product, right or not? Third, which is known as empathy and practicality. So, if you see that empathy and practicality, look at that the option which I pointed is called as a gradually phase out the product while retraining employees for other roles. Now, if I look into this particular option, option 3 stands out as a balanced solution, isn't it? It shows concern for employees while addressing the financial viability of the business, isn't it? Because in option 3, what does it say? In option 3, it is stated gradually phase out the product while retraining employees for other roles. So that could have saved the 200 workers, isn't it? As well as means means uh, you also show that what concern for employees at the same time addressing what the financial viability or possibility of the business. Got my point? So in that case, what are the things we did here? We follow the ethical dilemma, we follow the stakeholders' interest, we also follow with the empathy and practicality. Got my point? Now, let's talk about the means one of the possible approach the problem systematically. Now, what you supposed to do when you get the DM question or decision making questions, your priority is called as read the case carefully, isn't it? So, when you read the case carefully, what are the things you supposed to follow, which is nothing but important? One is called as a focus on the context, right? So focus on the context, identify the main stakeholders, their interest, and the underlying problems. Stakeholders in their interest and underlying problems, isn't it? Another thing is called as a highlight important facts. That's also needed to know. Highlight important facts and avoid getting distracted by what means irrelevant details, isn't it? So these are the things are highly essential when you read the case carefully. Step two is called as a understand the core issue, like determine the primary objectives of the decision. Example like what resolving a conflict, maximizing profit, mm, maintaining ethics, balancing stakeholders' interest. So these are nothing but considering as the core issue. Step three, when I say that, it's called to evaluate the options, which I have already pointed. Like go through each option systematically. Look for logical, look for balanced solutions present in each of the options or not. Eliminate those of the options which are extreme, using with the extreme words, extreme tone, or you can say that impractical options. Right. So, what I can say here, when we go for the approaching the problem systematically, a structured approach to decision making questions helps a candidate in analyzing the scenario effectively and selecting the best possible solution. Let's discuss more of it. If I go for the detailed explanation of how to approach the problem systematically, then, like I said, that read the case carefully. That is the first one. Because when you focus on the context, you begin by understanding the situation presented in the case. You identify the background information, the events that leads to the current issue or the issue which is given, and the scope of the problem, right? Second, it's called as like I said, identifying key stakeholders, right? So when you read the case, you find out some of the individuals are provided, some of the individuals are provided, groups, you know. So in that case, your priority is called as a list all the individuals, groups, or you can say that what entities impacted by the decision. Like in the text which I give you as an example, what do I find out? I find out the company and the 200 employees, isn't it? So means they are getting impacted by the decision. So understand their perspective. What are their goals? What are their interests? And what are the potential gains or losses? So that is what called to focus on the context, identify the main stakeholders. Then, means if I say that what uh, the example which I pointed, example of stakeholders. So I can say that in a business scenario, employees, customers, isn't it, shareholders, and the organization itself, right? So even you can say that in an ethical dilemma, society affected individuals and the decision makers, right? So therefore, means when you go for the means text, your priority is called as a read the case carefully, focus on the context, identify key stakeholders, right? So, like I give you the example, and the another thing is called as a pinpoint the underlying problems. Pinpoint the underlying problems. Like determine what the case revolves around. So when you find out the case revolves around, is it an, put the question in yourself, is it an interest, means ethical dilemma, a resource allocation issue, a conflict of issue, sorry, a conflict of interest, or a business challenge, right? So avoid being misled by surface level distraction. So then the means I would also say more like highlight important facts. Highlight important facts means note the facts essential to the decision making process. Ignore irrelevant details that do not contribute to solving the problem. After reading the case carefully, you when you go for the identifying the core issue, so you need to see that determine the primary objective. So when you go for the identifying the primary objective, right? So ask yourself, what is your goal of the decision making process? So this could involve resolving a conflict, maximizing profits, protecting stakeholders, maintaining ethical standards, or balancing you can say that competing interest, right? Second is called as a okay, means I just want to give you a couple of examples of core objectives. Like, let's say that in a business scenario, increase profitability without compromising employees morally, right? That could be called as a core objects. Second is called as in a personal conflict, resolve disputes while maintaining professional relationship. That could be a core objects, isn't it? These two can be considered as the examples of core objects, right? So they can be known as a what primary objectives. Then second is called as understanding the constraints. Like under the identifying the core issue, you also need to see that what determine the primary objectives. So where you supposed to put a question yourself, like what is the goal of the decision making purpose? So obviously the goal of decision making process is to nothing but resolving a conflict, maximizing profits, protecting stakeholders, maintaining ethical standards, or balancing competing interest, right? So, where I give you the example, like you can talk about increased profitability without compromising employees morally. So, also resolve disputes at the same time maintaining professional relationship, right? So personal conflict can be resolved. So in that case, we need to see what are the constraints actually, understand the constraints, consider any limitations or restrictions mentioned in the case, example, budget, time, or organizational policies, right? So whether means these are considered the limitations or restrictions, isn't it? So after that, you go for the define success. Like what would a successful resolution mentioned in the situation? So knowing the desired outcome helps in what evaluating the options. You can say that effectively. So beside the core issue, I can also go for the what means. First is the case you read it. Second is called as you look at the core issues. Then the third is called as evaluating the options. When I evaluate the options, so what I supposed to do, I analyze each option systematically. Right. I break down each option and evaluate its pros and cons, I consider that how each option aligns with the core issue and stakeholders' interest, isn't it? So I also means these are nothing but not only evaluating the options, you are analyzing each option systematically. So you look at the key factor to or consider that means ethics, feasibility, or impact, isn't it? Ethics, like you can say that what um, does the option align with ethical principles? Does it follow with the means what you can say ethical principles? So feasibility, when you say that is it a practical given the constraints? So, impact, you also need to see that does it have a positive effect or a positive effect on the company or stakeholders or the employees, right? So, in all these cases, you look for what logical, ethical, and balanced solution. That's what I repeat many a time, right? A good solution, when you look at the options, right, a good solution is one that achieves the primary objective while minimizing harm to stakeholders, right? So, or where getting benefit to the stakeholders. Second is called as avoid knee jerk reactions and look for what thoughtful, well rounded decisions. Don't go with your own judgment, right? Eliminate extreme, biased, or impractical options. Like cross out options that support one stakeholder and means bias to the others, isn't it? So, or you may find out that support favor one stakeholder disproportionately. Second is called as ignore long-term consequences and seem overly idealistic or unfeasible. Right? Let's say that in the example which is pointed in a scenario where a company must choose between laying off employees or sustaining losses. Right? So the extreme option would be what? Laying off all employees immediately. That's an extreme option, isn't it? Biased option. What is that biased option? Like you can say, continue operations without considering financial consequences. That's a biased option. Balanced option is what? Balanced option is called as gradually reduce operations while offering employees retraining, what you can say, opportunities, which I pointed option three, isn't it? I would like to also give you another example to illustrate the systematic approach. So, another example means I'm talking about another case scenario. Look at this particular one where you can say a case means a case scenario would be like this: a school principal, right? A school principal is deciding whether to cancel the annual sports day due to lack of funds. Try to understand. A school principal is deciding what? Whether to cancel the annual sports day due to a lack of funds. However, students and parents are enthusiastic about the event. Obviously, as it's a kind of a orally, so that's why I have made this case very short, two lines or two sentences. So the case scenario is simple, like what a school principal is deciding whether to cancel the annual sports day due to a lack of due to a lack of funds, isn't it? However, students and parents They're enthusiastic about the events. So, what's our priority? What we supposed to do? Think of it. So, do you think that cancel the event outright to save cost? First option. Second option, organize a scaled down version with minimal expenses. Organize a scaled down version with minimal expenses. Third, it's called as do you think we seek sponsorship or voluntary contributions from parents? Then, fourth one, postpone the event to next year. So, out of this four option, which option you supposed to choose for this case scenario? Now, the first step is called as we read the case carefully. What our context is? The school is low on funds, but the event is important for students morally. Second, stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? Students, parents, teachers, and school administration. Isn't it? These are the stakeholders. Third, third is what? Underlying problem. What is the underlying problem? Balancing financial constraints with the balancing financial constraints with the interest of students and parents. So that is what the case we read carefully. Step two. What is that? Identify the core issue. When we talk about identifying the core issue, so what is the core issue here? The primary objective, we need to find out a way to organize the sports day without putting undue financial strain on the school, right? Then that is our primary or core issue. Step three, we need to evaluate the options. So, what are the options I pointed? Right. The- So pause the video and try to find out the answer and just give the one's right answer right in the comment section. Right. Now I'm going to discuss that. So what are the options I pointed? I need to evaluate each of the options. Now the first option is called as a cancel the event outright to save cost. Now if I analyze this particular option, so what I can find out. Cancel the event outright to save cost, which is called as a practical. But you ignore students. You ignore students' morals and parents' expectations, isn't it? Now think of it, whether this could be the answer. Second, organized a scaled down version with the minimal expenses. So what I find out that you are organizing, right? So maybe big or small, doesn't matter, but you are organizing. So that's indicating you are keeping the interest of the parents, teachers, and students. So in that case, it is balanced, right? Keeps the event while managing cost. Third, look at the third and fourth because as I told you, means that none of the options seem the answer, right? Or the best answer, we need to find out which answer is more appropriate. Got my point? So, third option says that seek sponsorship or voluntary contribution from parents. So, it is logical, maybe feasible. Feasible means possible, but it requires additional effort, isn't it? And why parents would pay the money for that? But at the same time, I would eliminate this because it requires additional effort. Fourth one, it's called as a postpone the event to next year. So this avoids the issue for now, but disappoint stakeholders. This avoids the issue for now, but disappoints stakeholders. Means obviously in the next year also you face the same problem, and next year also you may, means what you can do, uh, postpone to the another year or next year to next year. So the best solution which we can find out here is called as option two, which is indicating about organized or organize a scaled down version of the uh, event. As it is balanced and satisfies what the primary objective. I hope you understood. That's all. So hope this will help you in your mm, jet DM section preparation. Right. More videos will be followed. Right. And more examples will be discussed. Um, till then, bye bye and happy.